Okay, I don't normally do match reviews on the lower rankings of rugby union when it comes to Test rugby, but Belgium are playing Canada, and of course Portugal are playing Japan a little bit later, in about an hour's time as I'm recording this video. Canada were ranked 14th in the world 11 years ago. There was talk about 15 years ago of Canada and the US joining the Six Nations format. They're now ranked 23rd in the world. They have tumbled down the world rankings and they failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2 years' time. They lost their two-leg head-to-head against the US earlier in the year. So they are a team in rebuild mode. And you can see with the way they start the game, really positive. They score a try through Corey Thomas after 3 minutes, and they get a penalty from Webster on 13 minutes. So the first 13 minutes, they are on top. They are really ripping Belgium to pieces. They're better professionals. You can see they're the higher ranked side, and the new lineup with these new players coming in was going really well. Then the red card for Smith, their flanker. It's not the most egregious headshot, but it is an illegal clear-out, and there is a directive from World Rugby to referees to come down very, very strictly on this. We're going to see more red cards in the next year or so at both club and international level, at all levels, for this type of incident. Now, the referee didn't see it, the linesman didn't see it, the TMO saw it. Because play carries on down the field, several phases later, breaks down, and it's, I think, a penalty or a line out in favour of Canada, right by the Belgian corner flag, right on the Belgian try line. And while there's a break in play, the referee calls time off. He's had information into his earpiece saying that we've spotted some foul play, and it results in a red card on 17 minutes. Canada have to play 63 minutes with 14 players. Now, the fact that they win the game and they keep Belgium to 0, yeah, they dug deep. The second half and the rest of the first half wasn't really the most attractive game at times. The weather had an impact. Playing on a plastic pitch, which is different. Yes, the Toronto Arrows also play on a plastic pitch in Major League Rugby, where 10 of the Canadian squad play for. But a lot of the other Canadians who play in Europe and for other Major League Rugby sides don't necessarily play their home games on a plastic pitch, so that you have to adapt to that. The weather, rain kept coming and going. There was a strong breeze that kept coming and going, so blustery autumnal conditions. It's a wet, dreary day, slippy pitch, slippy ball. So there's a lot of scrums, there's a lot of turnovers. The breakdown was very evenly contested between both sides. The physicality, I mean, just because this Belgian outfit has a handful of professionals in it and the rest are semi-professional part-timers scattered around the French lower divisions and the Belgian division as well. They were one-up tackling, were very, very good. There was not a lot of missed tackles from the Belgians. It was a very physical, I wouldn't say necessarily spiteful, but there was an undercurrent of a fair bit of, there was a bit of needle in the game, and it came out with a few comings together. Bit of handbags, as they say. Second half, Spencer Jones slots 3 penalties, and Ross Rod gets the try on 76 minutes. So they keep the scoreboard ticking over. But at one point, they were down to 13 players, and discipline is a sign of a frustrated side. Now, this Canadian side, I remember, they were always very competitive in the group stages at World Cups. They have played, autumn series matches against Six Nation teams like England and France. They played against, strong European sides. It shows how far down the world rankings they've slipped if they're playing against Belgium in an autumn test match, which is worrying signs for Canada. They get the win as a positive. They've had a very tough couple of years since the World Cup. Their form has nosedived, but was also struggling in the lead up to the last World Cup. They were the last team to qualify for the last World Cup, so they have been on the downswing for some time. They've been tumbling down the world rankings. Other nations have taken that next step and improved. Canada have stalled and retrenched a little bit, which is a problem. So in the next couple of years, it's a rebuild for this Canadian national setup. And hopefully with Major League Rugby continually expanding, they can get a second Canadian side and grow the professional game in Canada. But at the moment, It's a squad in flux. There's a lot of young players, very little experience at Test level. So it's a team that's going through transition. They're not going to the next World Cup. So this time in 2 years' time, they're not going to be at the World Cup, which will be obviously a bit unusual for the Canadians because they are, regulars at the World Cup. They've been to the World Cup quarterfinals in their history, and this is a character win. Belgium, there's some green shoots there. The more players that get taken into the French league system, and the more professional rugby union at club level gets around Europe, um, they will continue to take steps. But there's still a long way to go for Belgium. But their physicality, I will say this, the physicality from the Belgians today, they weren't intimidated by the higher ranked team with professional players playing against them. They didn't back down from the physical challenge. But at set plays and ball in hand, limited in their opportunities. The weather had a massive impact, as I say. But let's see what Canada can do over the next couple of years in rebuilding, their world ranking, climbing back up the world rankings, rebuilding their status in the game. And nations like Belgium need challenges like this in order to take that next step. They will be frustrated they didn't score, especially against 14 players. But that's again a learning curve for at least a lesser side, a lesser level. But I will say this: the physicality, the needle in the game, which was actually kind of pleasant to see a little bit of aggression there, and the tackle there in the breakdown was really competitive. But the discipline from the Canadians, if they want to go back up the world rankings, they've got the fitness, they've got the professionalism, discipline. Their discipline is really poor, which surprises me for any professional team of any sport coming out of Canada, that they let their discipline go and they got the emotions getting better of them and giving away silly penalties. And a red card and a yellow card doesn't look good when you're doing your post-match review. I don't think the Canadians will be happy with how their discipline went from this game. They'll be happy with the character of the result, playing the majority of the game with 14 players, at one point down to 13, but they need to work on their discipline. And that's been another issue I've noticed with the Canadians over many years, is their discipline isn't good enough. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Portugal are playing Japan in about an hour's time, so I'll be watching that, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.